As a clinical psychologist, it baffles me that as the most intelligent species, we sometimes find it hard to learn from our mistakes, especially when it comes to love.
Just respect people.
I don't have to respect you, Alex. We're not together.
I want to help them break free.
Oh, sorry.
Rip that little puppy up.
In this experiment, I'm going to help people escape the cycle of damaging relationships where they make the same mistakes over and over again.
I don't feel as pretty as them.
I give too much of myself away too quickly.
I'm going to confront them by bringing them face to face with their ex-lovers, friends, and family to reveal some harsh truths.
Do you think the way you looked was important to him?
Absolutely, yeah.
Too much?
Yes.
I think this might change their lives.
I did make it all about me.
Will it work?
You heard what Dan says, you know it, but do you believe it?
Just like the people coming to see me, I'm willing to give it a try.
Hi, my name is Matt. I'm 28. I don't really have much of a social filter, which can get me into trouble sometimes. The 3 key relationships that I've had in my life sort of haven't really gone past the sort of 6 to 8 month phase. I could quite easily settle down tomorrow. And I think I'm pushing for that tomorrow to be today. It'll end and you're like, okay, God, what happened? God, who knows what's gonna come out today? It could be anything.
Today I'm working with Matt. He clings on to his partners, he showers them with love and scares them away. Matt has abandonment issues. His father left him when he was 12. With abandonment, it works one of 2 ways. You either cling on to your partner so tight because you fear they're going to leave you, or you hold them at bay so that if they do, they can't hurt you. Now, in Matt's case, it's the former.
Hey, Matt.
Oh, man, how are you?
How you going on Cliff?
Come on in.
Have a seat.
Cheers, man.
Matt clings onto his partners so tight, he scares them away and drives the very result he fears the most, abandonment.
Hey, Matt, what brings you here today?
I guess just going through the motions of relationships and sort of understanding why most of my relationships end after sort of the 6 to sort of 8 month mark.
All right. So before we get started, I'm going to address the elephant in the room, the empty chair.
I know, God, I was thinking that. It's like, oh,
So I've done some digging,
God, here we go.
and I've got some people I think can give us some more insight into you. How does that chair make you feel?
Yeah, look, we'll see. I'm a little bit nervous. Kind of like, oh, okay, you know, obviously something's going to happen, something's going to come out.
So, Matt, can you tell me from the beginning some of those most significant relationships you've had?
You know, my first relationship, I was with James, who you kind of meet someone who changes your life. And like, oh my
How old
God,
were you?
love. I was 20,
Okay.
21. So yeah, very, very young. James was my first boyfriend, first real love, obviously. And we dated for about probably on and off for maybe 7, 8 months. It was one of those things that it did definitely take a long time to sort of get over. It took James to move overseas for me to finally kind of get to that point of saying, okay, this, you know, it's done.
So you moved on,
Yeah.
and who was that?
And that was Ian.
Ian?
So he was sort of the polar opposite to who James was. We met and we sort of obviously have that instant connection. So for me, you know, when I make the decision, yes, you know, I like this person, I want to spend time with them, you know, I kind of go all in and I get invested, and probably too quickly.
Well, how long did you and Ian last for?
That was about probably, again, 7 to 8 months. We were just watching a movie there one night and I was like, okay, seriously, something's going on, like what's happening with you? You're quiet, you just don't seem like yourself. And then he just said that he didn't feel the same way. And I was like, oh, okay, like.
Just out of the blue.
Just out of the blue. So there was James when I was very young and very kind of naive. There was Ian when I was, a bit more mature and a bit more comfortable in my life. And then more recently, there was Adam.
What happened after Ian?
I decided to move to Sydney. I just needed something fresh.
And did you have a relationship?
God, it's going to sound a bit slutty of me, but I was at work one night, jumped on one of the social apps, and I was like, oh, I just need a bit of fun. And yeah, meeting Adam for the first time, it was like, out. Like I came over for, a bit of fun. And then at the end of the day, it felt like I didn't leave his house for 3 or 4 weeks. He represented a very new phase of my life where I was sort of just coming to terms with a new city, new people, all that kind of thing. And then my parents were actually in town for a weekend, and then we ended up just having dinner together. And that was only like probably a month or 2 into seeing each other. So that was a pretty big deal because they hadn't met anyone for a long, long time that I considered my partner. We just had like a really, really good time, and it sort of set up the, the possibility that this is definitely a relationship that could go further.
How long did it last?
Again, that was like 6 to 7 month mark.
Why did you break up? It sounds so good.
We were due to go to Brisbane for my birthday, and in the middle of the week, Adam goes, I probably shouldn't come. And I was like, oh, why is that? He's like, oh, I just feel like I feel like I feel differently to how you feel about me. And I was like, oh, okay. And I kind of had this moment in my head. I was like, oh my God, it's Ian all over again. Like, what's going on? You kind of start asking the question, oh, is there something wrong with me, or, those types of situations.
So, Matt, it's pretty clear there's a pattern occurring in all your relationships.
Yeah, you could probably see that.
Seems we're ending around the 6 to 8 month mark. But to get a better indication of what's going on, why don't we try and hear from somebody on the inside?
Sure.
Let's see who it is.
Adam and Matt dated when Matt first moved to Sydney. He was isolated and all alone, and Adam gave him that human connection. There are 5 different love languages. You've got to be careful that yours matches that of your partner, and in this case, that didn't happen. Matt was throwing himself into this relationship, moving forward in leaps and bounds, and Adam wasn't ready for it. Adam has sent Matt a voice message urging him to slow down.
Matt and I dated for about half a year. Eventually, it just reached a stage where I knew that he wanted the relationship to progress to a more serious stage that I wasn't quite ready for. Matt, in a relationship, he was incredibly giving. He always wanted to do something for you, or if he was ever going to show up anywhere, he would bring over some food or some flowers or just something random. He's such an all-in kind of guy, and not everyone moves that quickly. For example, I remember a few weeks in, he introduced me to his parents, and he actually didn't even tell them he was bringing me, and that was a shock for me and it was a shock for them. Not everyone is ready for something like that so early into a relationship.
Tell us a bit, how do you feel after hearing that?
Definitely his experience of meeting my parents was probably obviously very shocking for him.
And it's interesting because his memory of it was more confronting, whereas
obviously,
before when you were talking about it was more romantic and exciting.
Exactly. So he obviously had showed good face that day, but inside was probably freaking out a little bit. I think sometimes I get caught up in myself in the relationship and I don't think about the other person, and I don't see like the warning signs, or, I might not pick up on the little things that he might be feeling.
And one thing we know in psychology is that our sense of belonging in an environment is not to do with the bridges or the buildings or the cars. It's the relationships with the people.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely integral to your grounding and rebirthing yourself in Sydney that you did have a relationship.
Yeah. I think it was kind of a situation where it was sort of timing was just right for us to kind of meet, but it got pretty deep pretty quickly, and that's generally what happens in those sort of lust, heat of the moment kind of relationships. You kind of, fall deeply quickly. Well, at least I kind of did. Thinking back now, I definitely think that sort of we just sort of weren't compatible as people, let alone to be in a relationship. So to have that moment of clarity was really nice today.
Now I want to hear from somebody that hasn't dated you.
Yep.
But probably knows you better than you know yourself.
Hi, I'm Megan, and I'm Matt's mum.
Megan and Matt have had a special relationship ever since Matt's father walked out on the family when he was young. She's been on the journey with him. She knows the impact it's had, and she's endured the pain alongside.
I'm very nervous because I want him to find who he is before he gets into a relationship.
What she'd like is for Matt to stop living in fear fear that others will leave him. She'd like him to focus on himself and build friendships before romance. Now, I know how much Matt looks up to Megan, how much he admires her, so I'm hoping today he'll listen to what she says.
Hi, Megan.
Hello.
How are you?
Thank you.
Come on in.
Seeing my mum's face pop up, I was like, oh, here we go. Like getting the real nitty gritty of who I am.
I believe you know this young man.
If I can help him find who he is, this will be my greatest achievement apart from giving birth to him.
So, Megan, no one knows Matt quite like his mother.
Probably not.
What do you think he's looking for in a partner?
I think he sees people in really loving relationships, and I think really deep down that's what he wants. But I think Matt needs to find himself. Matt needs to look at himself and say, well, what is it that I'm looking for? I think the look on his face went, wow, Mum, you're probably right.
Why do you think a relationship is so important to Matt?
Oh, look, Matt was quite young when his father and I started having issues. Matt's father had another family in another country, which devastated me. I'd been married for a long time. I think your children are molded by what you do, and to see your mother, who you love so much, go through so much pain, I think that has made his need for a relationship so much more than an average person. Now I have the most beautiful relationship with a man who was my friend, and I think that's what he wants for himself, and we want that for him.
How old was Matt when you and your husband split?
It's probably about 12, 13.
Was he affected by that?
I remember him once saying, and Matt may not even remember this, but it's something that's stuck into my head and probably will stay there forever, because I was just devastated to see my little boy saying to his father, how could you choose a little girl over me? Because they had a daughter. And so Matt saw him being thrown aside and his dad walking out for a child that was nothing to do with him. And I think that affected Matt. Yeah. Which I'm very ashamed of, but
Mum spoke a lot about the divorce to my dad and the impact that had, which is definitely something that in my later years of life I haven't really considered. But I can definitely see how that would impact my future relationships.
I have met some of his partners, and I know that he was the giver in the relationship. I don't know whether that's why relationships haven't lasted, but certainly I think that would have contributed to it.
It could definitely be potentially because, you know, I'm afraid they will leave if I don't give them enough love, kind of thing. And that's definitely something that I hadn't considered.
What is the most helpful piece of advice you could say to Matt right now?
Just be true to yourself. You're successful, you're smart, you're handsome, and perhaps step back a little bit from being such a giver and nurture a relationship without thinking you have to cement it by giving gifts. And you don't need to give to buy someone's relationship.
Thanks, Mum.
Thanks, sweetheart. And just thank you for being the son you are.
Love you, Mum.
I did see my little boy there, but I also saw a very strong man who is now ready to say, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Every part of me and every strength that I have is all because of my mum. Like, she is the strongest person that I know.
Matt, you and your mum have a fantastic relationship.
We do.
It's so nice to see. And one of the things I'd heard Mum say was that at a really early time in your life, a critical age, Dad left. All you saw was, you're leaving me for another little girl, I'm not as important.
Yeah.
Someone else means more to you than me. And whether you know it or not, whether it's conscious, it seems like it's filtering into your adult relationships. That what I need to do is do what I've got to do to make sure that this love works.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Because somewhere, if I don't make this work, this person can leave.
Yeah.
And it feeds back into your needing to be a giver.
Yeah.
Because if I give more,
They'll stay.
they'll stay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I look at my relationships and I can kind of see that some of them, to a degree, I was there for the relationship and having a relationship, but not there for myself. Stepping back and understanding what I need is probably the next step for me in terms of having a really good relationship the next time.
And now I want to talk to someone else who knows you from a different angle.
I'm James, I'm 26. I've known Matt for maybe close to 10 years now.
James was Matt's first love. James found Matt's intensity and use of social media to vent his frustrations incredibly hard to take.
He would sort of communicate with, the Abyss, his social network, but not with me directly.
Their relationship is a great example of Matt's abandonment issues. You see, James was moving overseas, and on the last day, Matt made this incredibly huge gesture of love. Poor old James, he didn't know how to take that. When you're young, it's hard to talk about these deeper relationship issues. Today's the first time for Matt to hear exactly how that made James feel.
To believe you know this fella.
Oh, yeah. I'm feeling really excited about today, a little bit nervous though.
So, James, what was it like being in a relationship with Matt?
Yeah, it was definitely really good, a lot of fun times. I think intense at times, but yeah, mostly really good.
To help Matt, can you describe some of those behaviours that he did, which you found a little full on?
Something that sort of stuck out with me was the sort of oversharing on social media. That was something that was really foreign to me, and it was something that sort of made me sort of at the time, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, that's a great point. And to help Matt, what sort of things did he share that you found oversharing?
So like if we'd had like an argument or something like that, if you were just feeling a little bit, mad at me for whatever reason, I think seeing that sort of played out on social media without sort of addressing that with me was something that, yeah, not good.
10 years ago, people would write poetry. Now they just write a status update.
And Matt was telling us there was a point where you went overseas. How did Matt say goodbye to you?
There we go.
There was a letter. That was, I think it was about a 4 or 5 page letter. It was.
That long.
That's a decent letter.
Yeah.
That's a decent, so 4 or 5 pages?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did it say?
It covered a lot, being as long as it was. I think the last line just stuck with me. What you said was, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I love you. And yeah, I just remember sort of sitting down on a stopover at whatever airport I was at, flicking through and reading that, and it was just very, very full on. Yeah. Lovely, always nice to read, but it was just like...
Yeah. In hindsight, little too much too soon, but it's sort of the only way that I felt comfortable outpouring those emotions.
What I'm hearing you say is that when you write the letter, it comes from a place of authentic, metered thought, where I can gently express my feelings.
Exactly.
And then what I heard James say was that, but the way I took it was really confronting and a big hit in the face.
Totally.
Did you think when you wrote it that was the way it was going to be taken?
Obviously, timing wasn't great. I think if the roles were reversed, I probably would have freaked out as well. Getting this letter, and I think I even put it in a box with some things and all that kind of stuff.
Came with gifts.
Yeah,
That was elaborate.
But that's my obviously my personality, and I said it before, I don't do things sort of half-assed.
Yes. And sometimes we fail to notice the other person's emotions. We're so wrapped up in our own, and so we can't see what's really happening right now.
Definitely.
I think he's taking it really well. Obviously, it's going to be a lot. But yeah, he seems to be really sort of receptive.
James, I think perhaps the best message you've given him is to take on other people's emotions and read them. not just work from his agenda, but take time to notice what's happening to the other person as well. Would you say that's true? If you can do that, it'll be okay?
Absolutely, yeah. I have faith. I definitely think he can change and, yeah, help him in sort of relationships in the future.
Time heals wounds, so it's nice now that I can have his friendship in my life that I know will always be there.
So, firstly, James has echoed your other exes. Declaration of love for James, introducing Adam to your parents.
Yep.
Both came at stages that they felt were a little too early. Matt, I think you're hearing the message.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got to learn to read cues from other people.
Yeah.
Let them reach a level they're comfortable with
Definitely.
before we leap in with those big moments. Secondly, I think perhaps there is a fear of abandonment for you. It's natural.
Yeah, definitely.
Having a father that chooses another family over yours and moves overseas and leaves permanently is, that's a pretty heavy thing to go through.
At the point when James was leaving to go overseas, you made this declaration of love. Is there a chance that that letter was, I don't want you to be away from me, I don't want you to go?
Yeah.
I do fear people leaving my life more than what I realise.
Because it sounds to me you want the love, you're missing that chance to get to know them.
Yeah.
And to
totally.
assess, A, is this the style of person I like? B, is their style good for me?
Yeah.
And C, how can I safely meter out my style so that this works well?
I guess I try to force those things to happen rather than happening naturally.
I think that's definitely valuable to put that time and effort into a relationship and getting to really know someone before being with someone.
So what I need you to do is explore yourself a little more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And learn what you're about, what you stand for, what's truly important to the character of you.
Great tip. This whole experience there's so many, so many little things that I can look at in my life, and obviously slowing things down when it's needed and so early on in relationships, I think will definitely be a key thing moving forward.
And I think despite being kind and giving and caring, you need to be aware that you're not forcing your partner to reach your expectations of what a relation should be straight away.
Definitely.
So moving forward, I'm going to give you some short-term tasks. Number one, although it's a wonderful tool, social media is only a tool. I want you to limit your use.
Yeah, definitely.
When you start seeing a new potential partner, I want you to pace yourself. I want you to get to know his character and his intentions over time. And each month, I want you to incorporate one new goal in your life that has nothing to do with romantic intention, whether it's some random activity or something that just adds value to your life. The reason I'm telling you this is it's going to help you all get to know yourself more. It'll help you develop your character and explore exactly what you're looking for.
It's good advice.
I feel refreshed, to be honest. So it's just about taking those last little final pieces that I've taken away today and hopefully building something really special with someone.
Growing up, we are completely at the will of our parents. The attention, affection, kindness they show us or don't show us impacts the way we think, feel, and behave in our adult relationships. I don't think Matt really understood just how far his father's leaving him at the age of 12 had impacted his ability to function in his current relationships. That fear someone will leave me, that abandonment syndrome he has. If we can trigger that part of the brain today that will let Matt slow down, enjoy the moment, work on himself, without worrying this person's going to leave me, then I think he's going to live a far happier life.